Hello, anyone who's watching this. Let me do some audio checks to see how things are. Hello, anyone who's watching this. Let me do some audio checks to see how things are. Hello, anyone who's watching this. Let me do some audio checks to see how things are. Okay, I think Riley Freeman will be joining me. His real name is Jamal. For anyone who's watching, it's probably no viewers. I'm probably just talking to myself, talking to the abyss. But you've got to start everything from somewhere. Rome wasn't built in one day. So anyone who's tuning in, welcome. I'm the owner of Effective Fitness. But this podcast is dedicated to the sports channel, which is just called Effective Sports for those of you who are interested. The fitness server is very successful, large server, over almost 15k members, concurrently averaging around 2.5 thousand members online at the same time. We've reached 3k a few times, but not consistently. But yeah, you can check that out. But today is not about the Effective Fitness channel. Today is about the sports channel, because we're going to be talking sports and lifestyle, because that's what's most important to me. Yeah, I'm already in fairly decent shape, that I'll think. So talking about fitness 24/7 gets boring after a while. So the first topic on the agenda is going to be, let me see if this shows if I'm streaming. I don't know how to set it to show if I'm streaming. 1 second, let me just quickly try and sort that out so my settings show if I am streaming. Just bear with me momentarily. So my settings should be showing appearance. See what it looks like when someone else views my account. Just to give you a summary about myself, I'm a fitness and sports enthusiast, but doesn't mean I used to run track early on in my life, when I was a teenager to early adulthood. By early adulthood, I mean like 18, 19, 20. But now I am just someone who works as a developer full time, and it's not necessarily my dream job, but it pays the bills. So it would be nice to make my hobbies eventually become, my work. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see if God favors me. While I'm trying to sort this out, I probably should also be doing like background music and stuff like that. But the reason why I don't want to do background music, I probably need to research into royalty-free music, and also invest into a camera, because I do have one, but I haven't got like a light in, I haven't got like a setup, I haven't necessarily even got a position to put it in. So it's just gonna be pretty much trash. I think Riley might be joining, but so devices, streaming. I think there's something called like accessibility, and I think my Twitch is connected to my account. Activity, privacy, allow friends to join your game. I'm currently just looking through Twitch. Enable streamer mode. Okay, I thought I had it enabled. Maybe I don't. So I've enabled streamer mode. Does it show that I'm streaming? So streamer mode enabled. Hide personal information. Hide invite links. Disable sounds. Disable notification. Cool. But why isn't it showing when I am streaming? People should be able to see user is currently streaming. Let's just keep doing some. Let's go to my best friend Discord. Discord, do not streaming. Click on settings icon, scroll, enable streamer mode. I think it says that all I have to do is enable streamer mode. Maybe there's a lag. Oh, I think I need to sync my account, which would make sense. Parent accessibility.
To be in the streaming now or appear streaming now on Discord. So we are actually going to go ahead and make sure we're appearing online first. That's the first thing. You know, if you're on invisible, that's going to be a problem. So make sure you're green here. Green on the bottom left. You're just going to click your icon. Make sure you're online. Next, we're going to make sure our Twitch and Discord are linked together. So let's go into our settings here on the bottom, the little cog wheel here, and we're going to go into setting up. Usually it'll throw you in the streaming. Twitch is actually on its profile mode back online, and you have your Twitch and Discord linked, and you have streamer mode on. You will appear in the streaming now section, or you will appear as streaming on Discord. Remember, they're one and the same because our bot really problems. If those three.
Okay, cool. I think that should fix the issue. Streamer mode. Gosh, I hate being on green on Discord. Nope, it's still not showing. It's not a big issue. Probably need to figure out what's going on. Yeah, I hate being green on Discord. It just all these notification noises are just so annoying. You know what? I'll just do it myself. So Jamal was meant to join. I think he's probably working, but I'll do it by myself. So today I'm just going to be talking about a few things, maybe just mostly fitness and boxing talk. There's been recent news that KSI has decided to fight two opponents on the 27th of August. I think this is pretty cool. I saw the second opponent. I can't remember the name, and I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. But the person has like 3 and what's it, 3 and 16. 3 and 16. How old is this person? 43. I mean, there's a difference between. So his rating is like off of 1%. So I think it's obviously a freebie. Like this is not even a. This isn't even a thought. This is a guaranteed freebie for KSI, and that's pretty much the purpose of this. This fighter. It's a freebie. It's like we're introducing. I don't think KSI is at any risk. Swarms doesn't look like someone that's going to be a challenge unless he gets like a lucky. If KSI starts showing off and Swarms gets a lucky hit. Personally, I think KSI has put himself in a good position, and also he's doing something that's unique and new, even though you're saying he's fighting someone who's trash, right? Um, let me not make the mistake of looking at my messages on this screen. um, 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 yeah. Um, so what was I talking about? Sorry, I was just responding to a few messages, on Discord. The main thing that I think is, I just recently watched the Jake Paul and the True Geordie podcast with Flagrant. If you haven't seen that, I recommend it. You check it out. First things first. It seems like everyone knows that the main event in YouTube boxing, like the climax of this saga. So, for example, if you ever think of this as like a movie or a documentary or something that's happening in real time and you're living through it, would be the final fight with KSI versus Jake Paul. Now, to give a summary for those who don't know, um, early in so KSI fought someone called Joe Weller. A lot of you might not know who Joe Weller is, but this was done in 2018. This is pretty much a lifetime ago now. A lot of things in the world has changed since then. But Joe Weller initially fought someone. He fought another YouTuber who I can't remember the person's name. Um, and what kind of like initiated this rivalry between KSI and Joe Weller is KSI responded to their boxing or sparring match with Joe Weller's opponent and said that this is trash, that I should fight the winner or something like that. Something along those lines, kind of like downgrading what they did. And I would have to say, respectfully, because Joe Weller was doing something different. This was before YouTube boxing became mainstream. Joe Weller was learning a new skill, putting himself in situations, and KSI for no reason was just memeing them. And I think he was just trolling. He obviously clearly was just trolling. But the problem is Joe Weller took that to art, and from there things started getting heated up. They were joking and insulting each other. KSI, he made some really, really, really offensive remarks towards Joe Weller. Made fun of his mental health issues. I know a lot of people try to focus on that way too much, but it is what it is. It's something that it there's normally this saying, like in when it comes to fighting and you hate people, people say things they regret. But if after the fight they can make up and respect each other, then all is gone and forgotten. So KSI did make those remarks, and this is back when, and I want you guys to Google and check this out. This was back when KSI was out of shape. So if you Google like KSI 2017 to 2018, he was fairly chubby. He had a dad bod and he was like 25 or 24, right? Um, he was clearly out of shape, and there's this iconic iconic line from Road to Shore. Harry, one of my favorite sidemen, because I think he's just authentically funny. He's just one of those people that he does things. He's not trying to be funny, but he's just gonna make you laugh. Like being around him will make you laugh. And yeah, he's probably what I would say is one of my probably is my favorite sideman. I won't say just one of. He's probably is my favorite sideman. And it sounds like I'm saying Simon, sideman, sideman. But yeah, it's weird that the name is like sidemen. You know, because they're obviously like the main UK YouTubers. They're not, and I love that they gave themselves that type of name without actually, you know, they could have you know said literally could have changed it to like best UK streamers or something like that. No one would have cared. But it's nice that they picked something that isn't kind of like isn't something that's prideful, you know, as I would say. So yeah, that went down. KSI, you know, he started beefing with Joe Weller, and Joe Weller was in shape. If you were to YouTube or Google Joe Weller in 2018 before the fight, he was the favorite. Joe Weller in 2018, he was stacked. He looked like a actual boxer. He had the physique of a boxer. He looked the part. Like everyone was saying, he was going to knock KSI out. In fact, even his boxing montage made him look even deadlier. But something happened that was crazy that KSI does every single time. He went from fat to in shape in a short period of time, and I don't even think Joe Weller was expecting that. If you look at the face-off, the few face-offs where KSI and Joe Weller are going at it, you can see that KSI didn't look like he was ready to box. It didn't look the part, right? And when it came to the fight itself, KSI completely dominated Joe Weller. People are talking about, was it Joe Weller's training? Was Joe Weller shocked? Was Joe Weller stunned about, you know, the pressure and all these other stuff? Personally, this is what I would break it down to. Joe Weller was probably a more technical boxer than KSI when they fought. And this is what's going to go into my theory with KSI and Jake Paul. Joe Weller was a more technical boxer because if you watch the fight, right, Joe Weller had a game plan. He had a game plan and he was trying to execute that game plan. You know, take it slow, take it easy, win the rounds, do some jabs, block, and keep your distance. That's what he was doing. And he was expecting someone who's KSI, first ever boxing match, to probably, you know, not be as aggressive as KSI was. But when the round started, I don't think Joe Weller, I think Mike Tyson's Mike Tyson's quote about getting punched. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? The thing about that quote is that it's true. Because I think Joe Weller had a game plan. He said he went on a strict he said he went on a strict he said he went on a strict training camp. He said he cut out social media. He made so much sacrifices, right? And he had a game plan in mind, but he did not execute it because instantly KSI, a non-technical fighter, had the dog. Like whenever you think about someone like Mike Tyson was a technical fighter, but he had, and when people say the dog, just to explain it to most people who don't understand, a dog when it comes to fighting is someone who does not care about the consequences and still attacks. If you've ever seen a wild dog or a dog trying to protect his owner, or seen movies where they try to show how dogs are when it comes to hunting and stuff like that, or even dogs that farmers use to kind of like herd their sheep. The dogs have this mentality that if they want to execute something, they will, despite the cost, and that's what the dog mentality meant. So Joe Weller was there in his, I think he was doing southpaw, and he was blocking, and he had a game plan, but KSI was throwing punches like Wile E. Coyote. No rhyme, no rhythm, no logic, not something you could tactically prepare for. Like, is KSI going southpaw? It's similar to Wilder, right? Anyone who has seen Wilder, and for those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Deontay Wilder. He's normally underestimated as a boxer because he lost to Tyson Fury. But what I'm going to say is Deontay Wilder is, and I'm not going to say was, is the real deal. Although he lost to Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder had something that most fighters don't. He was ruthless. When it came to technique and tactical, he improved it towards the third Wilder fight, where he was more technical, more tactical. He managed to knock Wilder down, I think it was 2 times, so he had a better performance. But the problem is that the biggest thing, or the biggest problem the Wilder had, especially during that fight, was when he fought Fury the first time. That is when he should have put the nail in the coffin, right? It's similar with Deji and Jake Paul. If Jake Paul lost to Deji, Jake Paul would not be the person he is today, right? And the thing with Wilder is that he had an opportunity because he was fighting a post-prime, or what was perceived as a post-prime Fury, because Fury took a break from what do you call it? Took a break from boxing. Show your streaming on Discord. Sorry, someone just told me how to show I'm streaming on Discord. Just give me a moment. Let me just read through this video. Call devices. Game activity. Let's try this. Is it showing that I'm streaming now? Is my account just completely bugged? What's going on? Or am I even streaming? Am I just recording? No, I am streaming. I don't know. I think I might need to restart my thing. But it's okay. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. It is what it is. Back to what I was talking about. So, yeah, I was pretty much talking about being pinged. So Yeah. So, um, yeah. Sorry. Discord and messages. Never really. It's never really a. It's never really a smooth process. Let me just make sure I am streaming the correct screen. Right. So Deontay Wilder. So the great thing about, or the great thing that I like about Deontay Wilder is that he had that dog in him, right? He was the bronze bomber because he won the Olympic bronze. You know, he had only started boxing from, I think, adulthood. I think it's since he was like 18, 19 is when he started boxing. You have someone like Fury that comes from a boxing family. Tyson Fury's father was a boxer. You know, he comes from a boxing family. He was raised and born into being what he is now. Like, it was almost inevitable that he was going to be so good. He even said it himself. He studied Ali, he studied Mike Tyson, he studied the greats of the greats. Lennox Lewis. He studied all of them. He understood what it took to have, and you can see it when he boxes. You can see it in Tyson Fury's peak performance. He does things that Anthony Joshua doesn't do, but you can see it reflected in people like Usyk, who has more of a boxing technical knowledge, like a masterclass of being a boxer. Um, and you could understand that Wilder didn't have any of that, but he had the dog, right? What I would say is Wilder needs to train AJ, and this is why. Anthony Joshua has everything to have been the greatest boxer or one of the greatest boxers ever. Not just the greatest boxer of this current generation of heavyweight boxers, but the greatest boxers ever. But Anthony Joshua does not have the dog in him. I'll give you an example. Anthony Joshua was dominating Andy Ruiz in his first fight, and Ruiz managed to get him with a nice shot that shocked him, right? And the ref said, "This guy doesn't look good. We need to stop it. I don't want to cause a fatal injury," right? The ref stopped it, and I'm certain that AJ and both AJ, myself, and AJ fans were disappointed in that outcome because he seemed like he could have kept going, right? But the ref made what the ref thought was the right decision because also we've also got to remember the ref's job is to make sure people don't die. Oh well, in addition to upholding the rules, it's also to make sure people don't die in the ring, right? And that's a if you're a referee of a boxing match and someone dies underneath your watch, because you would have had the chance of stopped it. You know, you'd probably be reviewing the footage. You probably got your team, a council of other referees who are advising that you should have stopped it then and that, and you could have seen signs and all these other stuff. So that's why I don't want to speak badly of the ref when that happened. In addition to that, and this is why I say AJ doesn't have the dog in him. AJ fought Ruiz for the second time and he dominated the first round and got Ruiz bleeding. I think he caught Ruiz, was it on his eye or his nose? I, Let me just quickly fact check Andy Ruiz bleeding. Yeah, on his left eye, top of his left eye, huge gash. It caught him early on, and then he had all the opportunity to bring out the dog. Like he could have just, even that's where someone like Wilder, like if you ever watch Wilder, Wilder's like a, it's like a Street Fighter character. When you on or maybe like what's this other game? There's a specific game that I'm thinking of. It's it's not coming to me. When it comes to me, I'll talk about it. But basically, in when you're in a game and someone is stunned and they're shaking, that's when Wilder's dog comes out. Like he just spams you with bombs. Just watch Wilder versus who's this guy that he fought? Wilder versus Ortiz. That's it. Just watch when he fights Ortiz and how he knocks Ortiz out. Like Ortiz technically was dominating as being a boxer, right? And basically on the fourth round, he stunned Ortiz with a nice left hook, but Ortiz still had more hits. Like if you saw punches landed, Ortiz would have had punches landed because that's the type of person that Wilder is, right? He just goes in, he tries to, he doesn't have like real boxing tactics. He's just a dog. He got as far as he did just by being a dog. And he's also very lanky. And just watch towards the end of the seventh round when he got the knockout, watch it in slow motion and look at what happened. Like if you watch it from, 20 seconds prior, in fact, if you watch the entire round, you see Ortiz was still in control. Ortiz probably thought to himself, yo, I've got this guy, I've got this guy, I've got this guy. And then up until when it happens, Ortiz is down. It's that right punch. And you can see Ortiz trying to get up. Ortiz is even thinking to himself, like, what just happened? Like, I was beating this guy. Legitimately, what just happened? And you can see the ref stopped it because the ref could see in Ortiz's face and eyes that it was over. Like, it was over. He had won it. He had beaten him. And that's the great thing about Wilder that AJ does not have. Now, a lot of AJ stands might think I'm an AJ hater. I love AJ. He's my favorite boxer. That's why I'm saying this, because I want the best out of him. He gets complacent way too much. Anthony Joshua should have beat Usyk on paper. On paper, when you put up the skills, the tactics, and the ability, Anthony Joshua should have beat Usyk. Anthony Joshua should have never lost to Ruiz. When you put everything on paper, you put the skill, you put the experience, and not just that, you put the physical advantages. Anthony Joshua should have not lost to Ruiz. I'm not trying to say Ruiz is a bad boxer. We know he's a great boxer. He has knockout power, which should be feared, especially Ruiz now, who's hungry. He's hungry. He's lost all the belts. He had them for less than a year, and he's hungry to try and get to be a competitor in the top leagues again. I could go into Ruiz it's weird. I'm just ranting and going off in side talks here and there. I should probably name this podcast Side Talks, because I'm definitely never on topic, right? So it is what it is. I was thinking of calling it, locker room, but I don't know. That probably exists. Something like that probably exists. But yeah. Sorry, someone is messaging me again. Um, yeah, so someone was just messaging me, just replying to that. So Ortiz. Oh, not Ortiz, Ruiz. Andy Ruiz. Now, Andy Ruiz is the story of Icarus, but Icarus defeated the sun and got complacent, not knowing the sun was still going to come back for its glory. Like, imagine beating Anthony Joshua. This was before Anthony Joshua had lost to Usyk. He was undefeated. But imagine beating Anthony Joshua. Just think about that. Someone who looks like Adonis. In fact, it looks like Adonis created his own physique. Like Adonis drew what you wanted to look like. Anthony Joshua had it all. The ability, distance, the strength, the power, everything on paper was the best. But you beat him. But rather than understanding that you could have improved, you became complacent and you got fatter. Now, I'm not saying that as an insult, and it's not being said to be fat shaming. I'm saying that because Ruiz gained more unhealthy, and I'm not talking about tactical bulking for power. It happens in boxing, and I know that. He probably was, his best shape in the first fight because he was hungry. He wanted it. He had it, and he got complacent. If Andy Ruiz beats AJ twice, even if AJ eventually beat him in a trilogy or whatever, if Andy Ruiz had 2 losses underneath, or gave AJ 2 losses in a span of 1 year, his ranking would have gone from rank 5 to rank 2. And it would have been Ruiz versus maybe Wilder or Fury. It would have been a real threat. It would have been a real threat. Right. Someone says that I should go into. Let me just quickly try this. If I go here, does it show if I'm streaming? No, it still doesn't show if I'm streaming. Wait, let me see. Video, screen share. Let's try that. Does this show that I'm streaming? Sharing the screen. No streaming. So Ruiz had everything required to be let me see. Okay, so I got a video. I'll finish talking about this.
You see, quietly, Discord has been making changes on how the streaming status live role, where when you go live on Twitch, you'll be given a special Discord role that server moderators can use to promote and voice streamers. We've received many reports that regular creators on Twitch who aren't affiliate or partners can't seem to get the streaming status on Discord anymore. And after reaching out to Discord support, we learned that behind the scenes they released a new change where non-affiliates and non-partners will no longer be shown as streaming. But it's not as simple as that, because despite this change being made back in January, sometimes non-affiliates and non-partners can still be shown as live. I tested out streaming on a few accounts, first with the official Streamcore Twitch channel, which has nearly 8,000 followers but isn't a partner or affiliate. As expected when I streamed to this page, no streaming status is shown. Next, I used my own alt account, Big Bad Beaver, with only 4 followers and barely any streams. Once again, I streamed for 5 minutes on the channel, and I'm still not shown as live by Discord. Lastly, I tried my own affiliate account, TechnoBeaver, which I stream on very often, please follow. Unexpectedly, even after 5 minutes of streaming, I wasn't shown as streaming by Discord. I tried re-enabling streamer mode on Discord, reconnecting my Twitch account, but nothing worked. Frustrated, I ended the stream and tried again this afternoon, only to disappoint myself, Mills, and Sticky, who were expecting an actual stream. I was not given the streaming status by Discord. My friend Jorgs, who was streaming around the same time as I was testing, was appearing as live by Discord. Jorgs is a Fortnite streamer with about 1,000 followers, and he's an affiliate. But it doesn't make sense for it to work for him and not for me. I was confused.
Jorgs are confused? Why?
Because the system makes no sense. Even streaming on YouTube, which is supported now by Discord stream.
Cool. So yeah, I've just researched into why that wasn't showing up, which makes more sense now. So just summary for anyone who was like, "What are you doing?" I was just checking to see why, and why are there so much bots in this channel. Gosh, I need to clear that. Anyway, let me go back to the stage and go back to speak on stage. Cool. As you can see, there's no one in the stage. So let's make this historic once this is an amazing podcast and it's got thousands and hundreds and thousands of viewers, that this is the earliest moment. Just to also mention, this podcast is sponsored by Effective Fitness. Effective Fitness is a fitness community. It's probably one of the best fitness communities. Make sure to check it out. And we've got an amazing Discord server where everyone loves to help. There's free resources. There's a ton of events. Events that meets every single interest in the fitness industry. So if you're more into nutrition, we have a MasterChef event. If you're more into setting goals and achieving, we have a plateau event. You know, if you're more into, you know, the knowledge or, you know, going through research and, you know, proving that you know what you're saying when it comes to fitness, we have a scholar event. If you're more into powerlifting, we have a power meets event, you know, coming soon. We have giveaways, we have free resources, we have forums with threads, with questions. So if you're unsure of a question to ask, you know, you can search for previously asked questions and see the answers and see if it suits your responses or the responses you were seeking. We also have, you know, bot commands that helps you, you know, go through like a newbie or find routines or go through the process of getting you introduced into fitness. And as a veteran, it's a great way to, or someone who's been, you know, being into sports, fitness, lifting, you know, being, you know, actively working on yourself. It can help motivate you. You know, you can share the knowledge and your experience with members in the community. And you can also potentially be a staff member if you're interested, or an advisor if you're qualified personal trainers. We have a ton of personal trainers, and we're always welcoming personal trainers. It's family friendly. It's great. I highly recommend it, not just because it's my creation, but because everyone, you know, would love it. That's the reason why I built it. So back to this discussion. Welcome to Sports Talk. I'll name this podcast later, or Side Talk, because I pretty much just talk, or just AO. I'm thinking of just calling it AO Side Talks, so just Side Talks. I don't know, like, I don't know, I was thinking the locker room, right? It's like locker room talk. Sounds a bit cringy. First episode, doesn't matter. Let's go deeper into it. Pause. Ruiz had the opportunity to be one of the greatest of this era. Not of all time, of this era. Because he beat AJ, and you could see in AJ's eyes when AJ had the lead, and this goes back to my talk of AJ and people having a dog. Initially, just to give a summary for people who've, you know, fallen asleep or completely, or just started listening, I was talking about the difference between difference between KSI and Joe Weller. You know, I'm starting the YouTube boxing lore, going from the start all the way to expanding comparisons with professional heavyweight boxers and, you know, the YouTubers, you know, KSI, Logan Paul, Joe Weller, I'm guessing Storms now. I have another conversation about Storms. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to go through that in this podcast, but let's see. The most annoying thing about Ruiz is that he had the opportunity, because you could tell when AJ got that injury on Ruiz's left eye, top corner of Ruiz's left eye, around his eyebrow, and it was leaking and he could not see. AJ had the opportunity to, if that was Fury, if that was Wilder, in that scenario, they would have released the dog and knocked Ruiz out. But AJ did not. AJ was too complacent and scared of going further in. And it's that fear that caused him to lose to Usyk. He had the opportunity to be a dog and not let Usyk get comfortable. Now this goes back to KSI. The reason why Joe Weller lost to KSI, even though on paper, you look at the paper, you see Joe Weller he has more experience than KSI. He is a better technical boxer. And I don't mean a better boxer when it comes to technical, especially at that point in time, because he had history, he'd been training, and he had a better form. He was covering, and KSI was just swinging like a wild man, right? He was just swinging like a wild man. And because of that, that is the main reason why KSI beat Joe Weller, because he didn't let Joe Weller get complacent. If he had gone the first round and say, "Oh, I'm just going to jab and let him get complacent," Joe Weller would have gone through his tactics. He would have, blocked, taken it easy, kept his distance, thrown some jabs, and it would have been a smooth first round. And in the second round, he mixes it up and he starts using technical things he's learnt, and KSI would be unable to counter it because KSI hadn't trained as a boxer. But rather than that, KSI just, back to the street fight analogy. Imagine fighting someone who's got you in the top corner and they're just spamming the same combos, uppercut, uppercut. Like there was a glitch. I don't know if it was Street Fighter 1 or Street Fighter 2. You got them into the corner and you just started doing the I think it was with Ryu. You started doing the uppercut consistently, uppercut, and you just kept getting that combo. And if you ever got that combo, that person was stuck there. They couldn't get out, and that's what KSI was doing to Joe Weller. It was just consistent punches. If you've seen something like One Punch Man or One Piece, where Luffy's just doing consistent punches, or Saitama is doing consistent punches, that's what it felt like when I was watching KSI versus Joe Weller. Joe Weller had the opportunity on paper to be the better boxer. On paper, he had more experience. On paper, he had longer training. On paper, he had the physique. Because people were looking at Joe Weller's training. If you don't believe me, look at Joe Weller's training montage that he released. It was like, wow, Joe Weller, he looks like a beast. And on the day of, KSI won because he had a dog in him. Now, the reason why I said this is because I'm talking about KSI versus Jake Paul, which is going to happen eventually. It's going to be one of the biggest fights. Logan Paul is a better boxer than Jake Paul. No matter what anybody says, Logan Paul is a better boxer with less success. I'm going to say it because a lot of people just keep on saying Jake Paul is a better boxer. Put Logan Paul versus Tyron Woodley. Logan Paul versus Tyron Woodley. Who wins? Logan Paul. Logan Paul versus Ben Askren. Who wins? Logan Paul. Logan Paul versus Jake Paul. Who wins? Logan Paul. Logan Paul, if he did not lose 2 points, and even after losing 2 points, didn't start getting scared of the point system and kept boxing KSI, who wins? Logan Paul. The problem with Logan Paul is his story, unlike Ruiz, who actually defeated the Sun and got complacent. Logan Paul is the story of Icarus, who got close to the Sun and failed. Suicide Forest. Let's start there. I think after the Suicide Forest incident, Logan Paul became so humble He feared taking risk. And I wanna say that, and I know he's done WWE, and a bunch of people saying like, what do you mean he feared taking risk? You can see it in the fight. When the ref stopped and he took 2 points, Logan Paul, at that point in time, was afraid of taking risks. But KSI knew he had to keep going, that this guy cannot beat him. That's what KSI kept thinking, is that I cannot lose, I cannot lose, I cannot lose. This guy cannot beat me. He even released a documentary called Cannot Lose. In that documentary, you saw how Vidal Riley was grilling into KSI, pushing him, telling him, "You've got to do this." And it's a very important point to make, because a bunch of people still don't understand why, on paper, Jake Paul will have more experience, will be the better technical boxer, would have boxed longer, would have boxed harder opponents, but would still lose to KSI. A lot of people say Jake Paul has the dog. No, he doesn't, because if you watch that Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul fight, Tyron Woodley was working Jake Paul, but Jake Paul was more technical. Logan Paul hit KSI twice with 2 illegal punches, and KSI got back up. That is what separates KSI. And I know he's a YouTuber, he's not a pro boxer, but it's the mentality that counts. Separates KSI from Andy Ruiz. Separates KSI from Anthony Joshua. And separates KSI from Logan Paul. Now, I've talked so much positive things about KSI, but it's time for me to talk about positive things about Jake Paul, because I know people who've listened to this probably think I do not like Jake Paul. I do. I like him. Anyone who's around my age, who's hustled, who's worked hard, who's done a lot of things to get themselves to a position that Jake Paul has done. Anyone who says Jake Paul is not a real boxer, you do not know what you're talking about. Anyone who says they don't like Jake Paul, if you don't like him because of his personality, that's understandable, but you still have to respect his business strategy. This is somebody who has managed to go from a Disney star to a YouTuber to a Vine star to a well-time known boxer. He is now a household name. The Paul brothers have... Now, imagine the reality that we're living in, where a YouTuber... Because I remember when YouTube first started, it was mostly just memes. People like Fred, PewDiePie, Scare PewDiePie, and all these other games and cringy games. And then there were the FIFA guys with like KSI and all these other guys. And there was Smosh. I remember Smosh. Imagine just thinking about that. Imagine watching YouTube at that point in time and saying, one of these days, one of these YouTubers are going to beat a UFC champion. One of these days, one of these YouTubers are going to box a world, probably the greatest boxer of all time, Money Mayweather. I call him Money Mayweather because he follows the back. Floyd Mayweather, or Floyd Money Mayweather, just keep butchering his name. Floyd Money Mayweather is probably the greatest boxer of all time. I love Muhammad Ali, I love Lennox Lewis, I love Mike Tyson. The reason why I say Floyd Money Mayweather is one of the greatest boxers of all time is he knew how to mitigate risks in his boxing match. To be the greatest boxer of all time, you have to have fought everyone to the point that you've been able to live your life without severe injuries. You look at someone like Mike Tyson, you can tell that he's suffering from some form of CTE. And I'm not trying to push that on Mike Tyson, but you can tell that Mike Tyson, due to boxing, has been around the ringer, especially when he talks. You could see that with Parkinson's with Muhammad Ali before, or the great late Muhammad Ali before he passed away. And you can kind of see that with Lennox Lewis. But when it comes to someone like Floyd Mayweather, he's healthy. In a sense that his mental and physical sense, he's healthy. He's not got a serious illness that's got him to have Parkinson's, that's got him to have speech disabilities. He's an able person, right? He could function in society without any additional help, from what we know, right? And that's what makes him the greatest, because he was able to mitigate all that risk. Now, I say this because people who underestimate someone like Jake Paul need to understand what you have to have done to have failed in school. I've got to repeat this. Logan was the golden child. The reason why Jake Paul calls himself the problem, and he said it multiple times, Logan was the golden child. Logan was the wrestler. He was wrestling in varsity. He had the grades. He wasn't going to college. He was successful and he had a bright future. Jake Paul was the problem. Wasn't as talented as Logan. And that drive that Jake Paul has had, and this is why the Jake Paul versus Deji fight was the most important fight. Because it is two worlds and two similar people with indifferences meeting, where you have someone who, or two people who have two older brothers, or have older brothers who are stars, who have accomplished things, and they were living in their brother's shadow. Jake Paul didn't headline that first fight for a reason. It was Logan. Even though you could see the differences, Jake Paul trained harder than Logan in the first fight. Deji trained less than KSI. It's the moral of the story. The thing that makes Jake Paul scary is similar to the same thing that makes KSI scary. People doubt them. And I hate to repeat this. There is nothing scarier than someone who knows their worth and you keep doubting them. Look at Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman was on a win streak in the UFC and people kept saying he is boring. They kept doubting him and he knew his worth. He knew he was the best wrestler. He was the most rounded person in the UFC in his division. So he said, they keep thinking I suck. Let me work on an aspect that will make them know that I am great. And he started knocking out knockout artists. Google the fastest knockout in UFC history. It comes up with Masvidal. Masvidal was slapped by Usman. Think about that. Let that sink in. Kobe Covington, who was probably going on his way to being one of the best strikers in UFC, was stopped with a close fight, and I have to give him credit, by who? Kamaru Usman. How many times? Twice. I could go through a list. But why is it that Usman keeps improving? He's already been on a win streak. What is his drive? If you Google Kamaru Usman's name in 2020, in 2019, look at the comment sections of his fights. Boring, foot stomper. Boring, foot stomper. That's all they say. They disregarded that he was probably on his way to being the best. If they were saying that Usman, you're great, you're good, and all these other things, He would have become complacent. That is what Ruiz fell fault to. Andy Ruiz became complacent because he knocked out Anthony Joshua, who looks like Adonis, and people were blowing smoke up his ass, saying he's the best boxer, he's the rank one pound for pound boxer in the world. But he wasn't. And he still isn't, and he probably never will be. Because there are certain things in people like KSI and Jake Paul that make them deadly. It's the same thing that Alexander the Great had. There's a quote that says, Alexander the Great conquered the world and he still wanted more. It is never enough. Think about it. KSI, he's got the sidemen. He's got sides, the food. He's got Prime, the drink. He's got Misfits boxing. He's got a successful YouTube. He's got successful music. If he dominates boxing, he can just start acting. If he starts acting, he's almost like The Rock. He becomes like The Rock. He's dominated so much things. He becomes like 50 Cent. He's dominated so much things. He becomes so versatile. At some point in time, you don't think to yourself that this is a YouTuber. You think to yourself that this person, this human being would have been born in any point in human history and would have been able to master anything that you put in front of them. It might not be intelligent on paper in what we call construct in the construct of what society deems intelligent when it comes to education, mathematics, and all these other stuff. But you're not going to tell me someone who came from the middle class to becoming one of the richest people in England is not a genius. And that is the same thing with Jake Paul. Jake Paul was always in the shadows of his brother. On Vine, people were looking for Logan Paul. Logan Paul had a bigger YouTube career, but Jake Paul worked harder. He worked for Disney and he also did YouTube. He started streaming every day, daily streams. He created his own team. They called it Team 10. Even though all of those things failed, he kept excelling, improving, getting better, making a name for himself. I don't know what business ventures he has, but he's getting there. But the tables have turned now, and this is why I think KSI is going to win. The tables have turned now because Jake Paul went from that hungry person who always had something to prove, and now people are bigging him up. They're saying Jake is the best, he's good, he's the best, as in the best YouTube boxer, he's this, he's that, he's a knockout artist, and all these other stuff. This is where Logan Paul was when he first fought KSI. Logan Paul on his podcast said there is no scenario in where he loses to KSI. He called KSI a Scooby-Doo, but today he thanks KSI for saving his career and realized that there's no other person who can help him boost a drink than KSI, and why he got into a business partnership with KSI to release Prime. And this is an important thing to note. A lot of you might let it go over your head. A lot of you might not consider these things. But this is a very important thing to note. KSI and Jake Paul are more similar than KSI and Logan. I know Logan likes to say, oh, you've watched one of the podcasts where they've got KSI on, Mike and George keep saying the KSI and Logan Paul are very similar, they're pretty much the same people. That's not the case. It's Jake and KSI. They're similar in height. They're both not intelligent when it comes to, education and mathematics and English and grammar. They're both dogs. If KSI stuck to boxing, he would be in the position that Jake Paul is in. If Jake Paul stuck to music, he'll be in the position that KSI is in. Remember, Jake Paul started the YouTube music wave before KSI took it over. KSI started the boxing wave before Jake Paul took it over. They are both in a crossroad consistently, going through each other, passing through each other. destined by fate to eventually fight. You could not write a better movie. You could not write a better movie than two people who failed in school, finding online success on a digital media that nobody thought would ever make wave, to having business ventures, to then becoming boxers, to fight each other's brothers and beat them, to then face each other for the climatic end of the saga. You could not write a better movie. In fact, you could not even have a plot that is this precise to the point that the brothers are business partners. KSI and Logan Paul are business partners. To give it more nuances, there's so much nuance. And you also have a side story with Deji. Is he finally going to get a win? Will the underdog prove himself and finally escape KSI's shadow? Would Logan Paul eventually redeem himself and win a boxing match? There's that two-side quests. Anyway, guys, I think that's a great note to leave it at. For anyone who's listening, who listens to the live stream, or anyone's listening to it back, just remember, this is only my opinions. Please don't get triggered and hate me for it. You're all welcome to your opinions as well. If there's a comment section wherever this is posted, make sure to post your own points or your comments about it. And also make sure to join my Discord server. Once again, this is sponsored by Effective Fitness. I think we do have some affiliates that will also help sponsor these things, but I'll just say Effective Fitness because it's, there's something that KSI said, and also Logan said. They said that it's always good to focus on the things that made you who you are. So Effective Fitness, make sure to join the Discord server. It's literally discord.gg/fitness or discord.com/fitness. Make sure to check out my Twitch. It is twitch.tv/AO King. It's AYOKING. And join the server. This podcast is just literally me and probably only 2 people listening max. If it reaches 3 people, and you've made my day. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day. Goodbye.